Ready? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وبه قال حدثنا مسدد قال حدثنا اسماعيل يعني ابن ابراهيم قال اخبرنا محمد بن اسحاق قال حدث سعيد بن عبيد بن السباق عن ابي عن سهل بن حنيف قال كنت القى من المدي شده وكنت اكثر منه الاغتسال فسالت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ذلك فقال انما يجزئك من ذلك الوضوء قلت يا رسول فكيف بما يصيب ثوبي منه قال يكفيك بان تاخذ كفا من ماء فتمدح بها من ثوبك حيث ترى أنه أصابه. Right. Sahel ibn Hunayf. That I used to get a lots of mazi, and I used to make a lots of ghusl. So I asked Nabi Kareem Sallallahu about that. So he said it will suffice you from that wuzu. So I said, oh Nabi Kareem, so what about that which afflicts my clothes from it? So he said it will suffice you that you take a palm of water, then you wash it. Here they got sprinkled, but it means wash it, right? From your on your clothes, wherever it is seen that it afflicted, right? So this hadith here, fatandahu, which it outwardly supports Hanabila, who says you can just sprinkle it, right? And in Muslim Shareef also, there's a hadith which says from Ibn Abbas, wandah farjaka, sprinkle, you understand? Jamur say wherever this word is, it comes in the meaning of ghusl, right? Washing, right? And Imam Nawawi rahmahullah says in another riwayat, liyaghsil dhakarahu is clear. So therefore, nadah is carried upon ghusl, right? وبه قال حدثنا ابراهيم بن موسى قال اخبرنا عبد الله بن وهب قال حدثنا معاويه يعني بن صالح عن العلاء بن الحارث عن حرام بن حكيم عن ابي عبد الله بن سعد الانصاري قال سالت رسول الله عما يوجب الغسل وعن الماء يكون بعد الماء فقال ذلك المذي وكل فحل يمضي فتغسل من ذلك فرجك وانثييك وتودع وضوءك للصلاه. Right. Narrated from Abdullah bin Sa'ad al-Ansari. Say, ask Nabi about that which necessitates ghusl, right? And about water, which is after water. So he said that is mazi, and every male will have some mazi. Then you should wash from that your farj, your private parts, and your testicles, and make your wuzu for salah. Right. So here, water after water. What is it? They say that means mazi. In other words, mazi is like it. It comes out slowly. It comes out slowly, and it comes out one after the other, right? Allama Shawkani rahmatullah alayhi, he said if you look at the meaning of this here, al-ma'u yakunu ba'd al-ma'i, water coming after water. So he said that means that which comes after you urinate, which is wadi. You understand? And that is not the intended meaning here, because it's that is wadi and that is not mazi, right? Right. وبقول حدثنا حارون بن محمد بن بكاري قال حدثنا مروان يعني بن محمد قال حدثنا الهيثم بن حميد قال حدثنا الغار بن الحارث عن الحرام بن حكيم عن عمي انه سال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما يحل لي من امرأتي وهي حائض قال لك ما فوق الازار وذكر مؤاكلة الحائض ايضا وساق الحديث. Right, from Haram ibn Hakim, from his uncle, right? That he asked Nabi what is permissible for me from my wife while she's in a state of haste. So he said that which is above the izar. In other words, above the navel and below the knee, right? That is above the izar. And then he mentions eating with the woman in haste also, and he continued the hadith, right? وبه قال حدثنا هشام بن عبد الملك اليزني قال حدثنا بقية عن سعد الألفشي وابن عبد الله عن عبد الرحمن بن عايز الأزدي قال هشام وابن قرد أمير حمص عن معاذ بن جبل قال سألت الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم أما يحل لرجل بامرأته وهي حائز فقال ما فوق الإزار والتعفف عن ذلك أفضل. قال أبو داود وليس هو بالقوي. Right. From Muaz ibn Jabal, he asked Nabi Akram, what is permissible for a man from his wife while she's in haid? So he said, whatever is above the izar. And abstaining from that is also better. Imam Buddha said, and he is not strong. Right. So these two hadiths that we mentioned now, it seems like it's off the topic. Right. So they give an answer here. They say the only way you can put us under the topic is that when a person is now making mubasharat fahisha, is having foreplay with his wife, that's the time mazi comes out. So that's how it's connected to the topic, right? And so that's the only way it is connected to the topic. Obviously, the masla remains that during haiz, you can eat everything with your wife, everything, sleep, and you can enjoy everything that's above the navel and below the knee. But between navel and knee, you shouldn't touch. And they say there that hadith say, and even if you abstain during that period, that's also all right, right? So then he says, Yakola Ishamun wa huwa ibn Kurd Amiru Hims, right? So who's us? Who are you referring to? Eyes. If you look at that hadith here now, um, and Abdurrahman ibn Aiz al-Azday, right? So they're referring to eyes, right? Eyes Azday, right? Uh, that eyes is the son of Kurat. Then, then they say is the Amir of Hims. So who's the Amir of Hims? It could be Abdul Rahman or it could be Ais. They don't say that. You understand it? Then they say Qala Buddha Walaysa huwa bil qawi. Right? That's huwa is referring. Who's it referring to? Saad Aghtash. Right? Which is in the Sanad there. Musannif Ramna is saying that he is a weak rawi. You look at it, hadith say, right? Saad Aghtash is there, right? Is right at the beginning. You understand of that sanad. Right. Babul Iksali, the chapter of Iksal. What's the meaning of Iksal? Iksal means that when a person is having jima with his wife and then he doesn't make insal. Yeah, he's making jima, but he doesn't make insal. And this can happen at times, you understand it? That nothing comes out, right? So the question that arises, does jima without inzal, does it necessitate ghusl or not? Jamhur ulama salafan wa khalafun. Aimai arba, they say it necessitates ghusl. Imam Dawood Zahiri, he says it does not necessitate ghusl, right? And the Jamhur's proof is إذا جلس بين شعبي الأربع ثم جهد فقد وجب الغسل. When he sits between her four limbs, then he makes shima with her, that makes ghusl wajib. That riwayat is what consensus. Then you get the riwayat which says al-ma'u min al-ma. You understand? This riwayat is also famous. The Sahih Muslim Abu Dawud, right? Uh, so water is from water. In other words, ghusl is from money. So that hadith shows you, they tell you don't have money, no ghusl. You got it? Right. So uh, then there's a hadith you say, Izal taqal khatanani, right? That when the places of khatna meet, then faqad wajabal ghuslu, right? So nevertheless, this was an ikhtilafi masla, even in the time of Sahaba Kiram. So once they were all sitting by Hazrat Umar in the majlis, and there were two jamaats, right? And they were making ikhtilaf on the same masla. So Hazrat Umar told him, Antum ahlu badrin al-akhya'ru. You are the chosen ones, the people of Badr. فَكَيْفَ بِمَنْ بَعْدَكُمْ. Then how is it going to be those after you if you're making ikhtilaf in this masla? You understand? So, uh, so then they told Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, you the Amir al-Mu'minin, why do you make a research on this masla uh, and give a final decision, right? So they said you must ask the Azwaji Mutahharat. So they went and they asked Hazrat Hafsa radiallahu anha, and she said she doesn't know. Then they went to ask Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, and she said, إِذَا جَاوَزَ الْخِتَانُ الْخِتَانَ فَقَدْ وَجَبَ الْغُسْلُ. When the place of khatna passes the place of khatna, then ghusl becomes wajib. Right? And then he gave the decision according to that. Right? Right. Let's first do the hadith now. وفي قال حدثنا احمد بن صالح ولا حدثنا ابراهيم ولا اخبرني عمرو يعني بن الحارث عن ابن شهاب ولا حدثني بعض من ارضى ان سهل بن سعد الساعدي اخبره ان ابي بن كعب اخبره ان الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم انما ان الرسول انما جعل ذلك رخصه للناس في اول الاسلام لقله الثياب ثم امر بالغسل ونهى عن ذلك. قال ابو داود يعني الماء من الماء. Right. That Ubay bin Ka'b informed me that Nabi Agam said indeed that was made as a leeway for the people at the beginning of Islam due to the little of clothes. Then he commanded with ghusl, and he prohibited from that. Imam Abu Dawud says, meaning this hadith here, water is from water. In other words, ghusl is only from money. Right. But what are the answers now that to this hadith? Because it is a hadith. So they say the answers to this is, one answer is this hadith is mansukh, as Ubay bin Ka'b mentions here. Right? It was allowed in the beginning, after it was prohibited. Second is that this hadith means when you make foreplay in out of the farj. So when you have and you're not penetrating the farj, then your ghusl only becomes wajib uh, when money comes out, right? The third answer they say is that al-ma'u min al-ma hakikatan or hukman. Hakikatan is when generally money comes out, and hukman is when you the the zakar is penetrates the faraj even if there is no inzal. That's another answer. Then the fourth answer is that there's two types of jima. One is jima fil yaqza and jima fil manam, right? Jima fil yaqza, that is that becomes ghusl becomes wajib even without inzal. And jima fil manam, in other words, ihtilam. When a person is ihtilam, then they ghusl will only become wajib when, so he could see himself having intercourse in his dream. But ghusl only become wajib when money comes out. All right. However, this hadith here, this tawjih here, right, which was also given by Ibn Abbas al-Jalanu, this tawjih doesn't sit because they say there's once Abu Sa'id al-Khudri says he went with Nabi Karim to Kuba, right? And on the way they passed by the Banu Salim, right? Nabi Karim reached there and then he called for Ibn bin Malik radiallahu anhu, right? He knocked on the door of him, of Ibn bin Malik radiallahu anhu, and he was engaged with his wife. He heard the voice of Nabi Akram. He came out quickly, and after meeting Nabi Akram, and Nabi asked Nabi Akram this maslaya that that man makes jima, but he is no inzal. So Nabi Akram said, al ma'u min al ma. In other words, no ghusl, right? No ghusl. So that, as we said, that is now at the beginning of Islam, right? So what Ibn Abbas who gave the tawjih that al-ma'u min al-ma now is for ihtilam. In other words, that had been abrogated, but al-ma'u min al-ma remains in the sense of ihtilam. You understand? Ghusl comes from money when in ihtilam. So you can have ihtilam, you saw in the ihtilam, you saw jima, everything, but there was no money, so no ghusl, right? But in wakeful state, then that is the same. Now, Ubay bin Ka'b says that was initially at the beginning of Islam, uh, there was little clothes. You understand? So if you're gonna make ghusl every time, and every time you're gonna wash your clothes, and you got little clothes, so that is gonna be difficult, because the more you wash your clothes, the more quickly it becomes old. Also, you understand it, right? Then the other thing they say here is that when there is little clothes, other tawji given, when there's little clothes, then they sleep in one sheet. You understand? They sleep in one sheet, and when you sleep in one sheet, then the chances of making jima are more, and the chances of making jima even without inzal are also a lot, and therefore it was allowed initially, and then after this uh, mansukh. And some nuskhas they say instead of saying liqillati siyabia, they say liqillati subat. Subat now means that initially it was allowed. Why? Because of them just starting off now in Islam, beginning stages. So they were not yet firm in Islam that they could do every difficult maslah. You understand it? So therefore, this was allowed, right? Uh, وبه قال حدثنا محمد بن مهران الرازي قال حدثنا مبشر الحلبي عن محمد ابي غسان عن ابي حازم عن سهل بن سعد قال حدثني ابي بن كعب ان الفتيا التي كانوا يفتون ان الماء من الماء كانت رخصها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بدء اسلامه ثم امر بالاغتسال بعده. That Ubay bin Ka'b narrate to me that the fatwa that he used to give, that water is from water, was a leeway which Nabi Islam gave in the beginning of Islam. Then he ordered for ghusl after that. وبه قال حدثنا مسلم بن ابراهيم الفراهيدي وقال حدثنا هشام وشعبة عن قتادة عن الحسن عن ابي رافع عن ابي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اذا قعد بين شعيب الاربع والزق الختان بالختان فقد وجب الغسل. And from Abu Hurairah from Nabi Muhammad, he said when he sits between our forelocks and the place of khatna connects with the place of khatna, then ghusl becomes wajib. Right? Uh, right. So the place of khatna, yeah, when you say khitan is what is called the place of khatna, right? And that is regards to a man and a woman. But there's another word which is khifad. Khifad is only for the women. So that is the place of khatna for the woman. So khitan, you use it for men and women. Khifad, only for women. So the woman also got the place of khatna. And the Arabs, they would do this. They would make khatna of that. They would circumcise that piece of flesh towards the top of the farj. You understand it? And in most of the women, otherwise, out of the Arabs, they don't really do that. Right? Uh, commentators mention that Awzaqal khitanu bil khitani is actually saying ilaje hashfa, when the head of the private part of the man disappears. You understand it? Inside, right? But it's not the actual touching of the places of khatna, because when a man, because the place of khatna of the woman is on top, and therefore when jima takes place, generally this is not touched. You got it? This is not touched because it's on top. You understand it? So Ibn Majah, there's a riwayat also which says this: إذا التقى الختانان وتوارت الحشوة فقد وجب الغسل. When the two places khatna meet and the hashafa disappears, then ghusl becomes wajib. Right. وبه قال حدثنا احمد بن صالح قال حدثنا ابن وهب قال اخبرني عمرو عن ابن شهاب عن ابي سلمه بن عبد الرحمن عن ابي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الماء من الماء وكان له سلمة يفعل ذلك. Right, narrated from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Nabi Akram said, water is from water. In others, money, ghusl is from money. And Salma used to give that fatwa also. And said, Babun fil Junubi Ya'udu. Except in regards to a person in holiday Janabat, can he return? Return here, in other words, return to Jima. You understand it? So he made one Jima. Does he have to make ghusl and then return to Jima or not? So what concerns us, it is not necessary. The best you can say is that it is better to make ghusl between the two jimas, right? Uh, and then what about wuzu between the two jimas? So Aima Arba says wuzu is mustahab between the two jimas. Dawood Zahiri, Ibn Habib Makki, Maliki, they say it is wajib. You understand? But nevertheless, it's mustahab to make, to either take ghusl, the best, or make wuzu between the two jimas. You understand? It's mustahab. وفي قال حدث مسلم قال حدث إكمال قال حدثنا حميد الطويل عن أنس أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم طاف ذات يوم على نسائه في غسل واحد قال أبو داود وهكذا رواه هشام بن زيد عن أنس ومعمر عن قتادة عن أنس وصالح بن أبي الأخضر عن الزهري كلهم عن أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Right. Anas rotated one day over to all his wives, one ghusl. Imam Abu Dawud says that Hisham ibn Zayd also narrates this from Anas, and Ma'mar also narrates from Qatada from Anas, and Salih ibn Abi al-Akhtar from Zuhri. All of them narrate from Anas, from Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, right. So he rotated on all his wives, and somebody might say, how many there were? There were 9, right? So there were 9 wives, right? That he rotated on, right? And uh, And when it comes to the wives of Nabi Karim, one call says 11 and another call says 12. However, what is mashhur is that the day that he made, there was not more than 9 at one time. Not more than 9. That is mashhur, right? So when it comes to the wives of Nabi Karim, in tartib of nikah, so you get Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, Hazrat Sauda binti Zam'a, Hazrat Aisha, Hazrat Hafsa, Hazrat Zainab binti Khuzaima, Hazrat Salma radiallahu anha, Hazrat Zainab binti Jahsh, Hazrat Juwayriya binti Al-Haris, Habiba binti Abi Sufyan, Hazrat Safiya binti Huway bin Akhtab, Hazrat Maymuna binti Al-Haris. So this is 11, right? Uh, and from these 11, istimta, in other words, what he was made, right? And some ulama have included Rayhana binti Amr, or she's also known as binti Zayd, right? Right. They have also included her, right? But the others say no, she's not amongst the wives. Rather, she was a slave girl. So slave girls there were 2, Maria Qibtiya, and the other one is Rayhana. From those 11 wives, Hazrat Khadija and Hazrat Zainab binti Khuzaima, they passed away whilst Nabi Kareem Sallallahu was living. And the other 9 they were also alive when Nabi Kareem Sallallahu passed away. Right. Right. In Bukhari Shareef, it's mentioned that as Anas was asked by a student that Awakana Yutiku Dalika, that would Nabi Karim have been able to do that, the strength. So he said that كنا نتحدث أنه أعطي قوة 30 رجلا. We used to discuss that he was given the strength of 30 men, right? And in another riwayat it says أعطي قوة 40 رجلا. He was given the strength of 40 men, right? And in another riwayat it says he was given the strength of 40 men of Jannat. So if you take it 40 and of Jannat, and when it comes to the men of Jannat, then each man will be given the strength of 100 men. So 40 times 100, 4,000 men. So it shows that Nabi Muhammad made the strength of 4,000 men. Right. Then the other point about this whole year now, making tawaf one time, that when you make division between your wives, then you do it at least one night, one night, one night, one night. You can't go less than one night. You understand it? So this is an ikhtilafi masla. Firstly, that whether making adl between his wives, was it wajib on Nabi? It's wajib upon us. Was it wajib upon Nabi Akram or not? There's ikhtilaf there. If we say it was wajib, then now we have to give answers now to this, because now in one night he rotated. You understand it? So one answer is kana dhalika biradahunna. That was what their happiness, right? There is no question, right? The other answer is kana dhalika inda kudumihi min safarin. The other answer is that was when he came from a safar, right? And a safar, you don't have to maintain equality, right? Then the other answer is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam during the day and night an hour, right, in which he doesn't, where no wife's got a right, and he's got the choice when he wants to use that hour. And Muslim Shareef said that hour he used to use after Asr, and and sometimes he used to use it after Maghrib, right? And others say that this actually took place on the Safar of Hajjatul Wida, because on that particular Safar, all the wives were what? Right. So these are the different answers given, that why is it allowed. Um, right. Okay, leave it till the.